I wanted to go over just a couple of things for her first week wrap up. So the first thing I always start out with is markering position. I want her to understand markers and what they mean and what they present. So marker is going to be a word that marks a moment in time that I like, something that she does. And for her, that's going to announce the arrival of a reward of food. And I want to create an association between the two events where marker equals food, equals delivery of food. And that way, whatever behavior that she is doing, Gracie, go get that hot dog. Whenever she hears that word, will hopefully then take on the good feeling of receiving food. So that way she's more likely to do it again in the future. The main one that I have been using right now is our yes. That means I like what you did and take something from me. She does not have to continue to do anything in behavior after hearing the word yes. I just want her to come take food. So I use that one in the beginning because I'm not really forcing any type of duration. It allows for us to get a bunch of reps in, and that way we can really build value within the behavior that she's doing. But I want there to be a reflexive response to the word. So she hears the word yes, and she knows, oh, food's happening. I'm gonna come take food from you. So that can be something that you guys play around with at home. Anytime you're gonna give her food, treats, just precede it with yes. So that way she just is like, oh my God, that word equals all of the great things. And I wanna make it a point to say the word first and then offer any movements or notions that I'm going to be giving her food. I want her to respond to the word and not my movements. That way, if she's not looking at me when I want to reward her, I don't want there to be missed opportunities, right? Like if she's waiting for this, if this equals food being delivered, then my words have no value. So sometimes you'll see me kind of do random fake movements. None of this presents food except for yes. Yes equals the food. And then duration, good is implying I want her to keep doing that. Good, I can pay her in behavior. I'm going to bring the food to her. Good. And then I use the word okay as a terminal marker, meaning that behavior is done. You can be done with that. So the big thing with her is I went ahead and you got crusty stuff on you. I went ahead and put her on a prong collar. I did that so that I could I could take away any frustration that was triggering her while on leash. And I want to be able to communicate with her more effectively when we're out and about and we come across a trigger, right? So right now, what I'm assuming has been happening is she sees something that she's unsure of, she goes to the end of her leash and she's being held back. There's no consequence to her moving into that pressure, so it just becomes a frustration and it can potentially amplify the way that she feels about the situation. Kind of like the drunk guy at the bar here, hold me back. He doesn't actually want to fight. He just wants to have that picture of the frustration, I guess. So what I've been doing is I want her to make sure she understands the sleeve pressure or what it's asking. If I apply pressure, yes, she can remove it by moving towards its source so she can turn it off. I want her to know how to turn it off. And when we are out walking, I'm very mindful that I want her right here, so I can keep her right here walking with me. And when she sees something, the moment that she notices it and her ears perk up a little bit, I don't wait for it to become a thing. That's the moment that I start communicating with her and addressing it. And I can just give a little bit of, hey, let's go. A little bit of leash pressure back into my center, good. And I can interrupt the arousal. So I always think of it as we're matching our source of pressure level with the arousal level. So let's say it goes from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. The moment that she notices a potential trigger, that's when we're at 1, 2, maybe 3. And I can give level 1, 2, or 3. So usually just a little bit of a leash trigger, like, hey, yes, good girl. Like right there, she looked at the guy sitting out the window. It doesn't need to be a correction. I'm just checking with her, hey, yes. And I can disengage her from that and get her back paying attention to me. If I miss that moment and I let her stare and manifest feelings, like right now she's like, well, that's a good girl. Then we start getting into those higher levels of arousal. Maybe we get the grumblies or the barking and things like that. If we do not match that level, then we can amplify it by just holding her back. If we're just a fence post at the end and she's in front of us and she's staring and she's engaging with the trigger, we're not helping anything. So unless you're prepared to give a little bit more like, cut it out, it's easiest if we address it at its infancy. Another thing, so that's one puzzle piece. Another thing that I've been doing with her is using my body language to communicate with her. So when we are coming up on people, I know that she has a tendency to alert towards like older women. Just in general, people coming towards us, as they approach us, I put myself between her and that person, and I kind of angle myself a little bit to where not directly approaching them, we're kind of offset a little bit. So the prong collar really helps with that, because I can communicate and I can get her into positioning without fighting with her and without jumping into opposition reflex, where she kind of leans farther into it. So just light little jigglies, little leash jiggles. So if they're coming this way, Gracie, listen, if they're coming this way, I might give it, just kind of put myself. And now we're gonna go this way a little bit. I don't have to overly react. I'm not tensing up on the leash, and I'm not staring at them, and I'm not immediately holding her back, alerting her. I just wanna keep it flowy, keep it moving, and I'm gonna put myself between her and that person so that she doesn't feel like she has to have an altercation or an interaction, I guess. So it's just helping her feel better. We're advocating for her space, and I'm addressing it before it becomes a thing. And again, I want this to be super flowy, and I'm going to keep moving. I'm not going to freeze up and let her stare and manifest unwanted feelings. I just want to utilize movement to our advantage and keep it going. So right here, she's staring at someone. Gracie, yes, very good. Can make it a positive experience where she's getting good stuff out of it. The good stuff is coming from me. Gracie, yes. And letting her experience things in a much more neutral way. I don't want to isolate her, and I don't want her not being a part of these things. And I don't also want to correct her for looking. If I can kind of, yes, I can capture her attention and get her working with me. That, to me, is we're changing the mindset, right? Like, I'm getting her working with me. Gracie, yes. Or I'm not fighting with her. She's thinking it's her idea, right? She looks at me, yes. She's creating her source of reinforcement. And the prong collar, yes, it itches sometimes. It does work technically through a source of discomfort, like that's the whole point of it. It's meant to be something, a consequence, if you will, that she's responsive to in the moment, where I can, Gracie, yes, where I can apply significantly less pressure and have her respond right then and there. We're lessening that frustration. She's not wanting to lean into it, so we're not necessarily getting into like opposition reflex where she's dragging into it. When I do use it, like it's super light pressure, I'm just kind of lifting up my leash a little bit. Yes. I've noticed that if I just do like a steady drag, she tends to kind of lean against it. So I've just been kind of, yes, I've been just doing little light taps. Just almost the equivalence of like if I tapped on your shoulder. She seems much more receptive to that, so that's how I want to work with her. Okay, you're your own place. Really, all the way. Good. Okay. So again, we went out to Home Depot yesterday. Haven't gone anywhere today. She was happy to walk around with me. I let her look at people and all that stuff, and anytime she seemed like she was changing her pace a little bit, like second guessing her step, that's when I took action. So I don't want it to be like, I don't want to tighten up on my leash and force her into a position. I want to just kind of use my body language to help move her to where she's on the opposite side of me, and we can continue walking past them and avoid interactions. Neutrality is key here. She might not ever be a dog that is openly excited about receiving affection from strangers. That's nothing wrong with her. That's most dogs, actually. We want to respect her space, but that at the same time, we need her obviously being respectful of boundaries. As long as we're giving her respect, then she can give that back to us. At any time that is not what's going on, we can effectively communicate her and help her make different decisions. Right, girl? For jumping, what I always do, first, hey, come here. I use the word out. Yes. Out means to give space. It's in its infancy as far as the behavior. What I do for that is I just say the word out, I step into her space, and I toss food away. So she kind of is getting that muscle memory. When you come into the door and she comes thundering up to you, what everyone does is they do this, right, to avoid claws and getting pummeled by their dog. What that does is it invites her into her space. When she comes running up to you, assertively, hi! Assertively just kind of take a step forward, and you'll see her kind of collect herself a little bit. You're using spatial pressure, which is what dogs naturally respond to. They're very physical creatures. Spatial pressure, yes, it asks for space. That's what she understands. She knows what that means already. So instead of inviting her to your space or doing this, turning our back, which is another way of inviting her to our space, we want to use that spatial pressure. Very good, very good. All right, so if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out and ask. She's doing really well with everything. She's been a super sweet girl, no issues. All right.